All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to I guess we're in week 7. We're at the end of week 7 out of 8 weeks. So we are almost there, 1 week left. But welcome to our Zoom check-in. I think this morning will probably be a pretty quick check-in for everyone. So let me just give you a couple quick reminders, which I know you're already aware of. But today, your organizational analysis paper is due by midnight tonight. Several have come in already, and I'm trying to keep up with them as they come in. So if you turned your paper in yesterday or the day before that, you've probably already gotten my feedback. So the first papers that have come in have all been great. I haven't had any major comments or any major problems with any of them. So I think everyone's doing a great job. But remember that paper is due then by midnight tonight. I've also been looking at your week 6 discussion board posts. I haven't graded any of those yet, but I'll get those graded by the end of the weekend. So if you've only done your initial post, just remember to get your responses to colleagues done by the end of the weekend. I'll get all those graded and feedback to you by the end of the weekend. For your organization analysis papers, I'm hoping to have them all graded by Monday if everything goes well. No promises, but I'm going to do the best I can. And then for our last class session next Friday on the 15th, you then have your final assessment that is due by midnight on the 15th. Your presentation, if you're just submitting it to Canvas, and that's what I think the majority of folks are doing, as long as I get that by midnight next Friday, it will be considered on time, and I'll grade those and get your feedback. So hopefully, again, everything coming in, being submitted by midnight next Friday, and I should then have all your final grades wrapped up by the end of next weekend so that you can then move onward and upward to your next course in the program. So I think that is where we are at currently in the class. Does anyone have any questions or any concerns about either the organizational analysis paper, the final assessment, preparing the presentation, anything at all? Any questions? Okay, very good. You guys are so easy. All right. So seeing no other questions, that's about all I have to say for today. So the rest of today will be spent on our presentations. And so our first presenter up today, and our brave soul who has volunteered to present through Zoom and to do it today, is Sandy. And so Sandy, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you. You can share your screen and then do your presentation. If you run into any problems, just let me know. And I've got your presentation here on my computer just in case.
Okay, let me see. It says the host has disabled attendee screen sharing.
All right, hold on 1 second. Okay. I'm going to just go ahead and make you a host. I'll make you a co-host. So, okay. Can you share now? You should be a co-host. Okay, good.
Okay, does everyone see it okay?
Yep, looks good.
Okay, perfect. So I wanted to first start off by saying thanking my colleagues for sharing the good and bad about their organization. I know it's especially hard to share the bad because we feel very vulnerable, but it's been a really good experience reading about everyone's organization and seeing the different similarities and differences. And as I continue to learn more about your organization, it's made me just really appreciate the function of each and everyone's jobs. So thank you. So with all of that said, here's my organizational analysis of In-Home Supportive Services, IHSS. And I'll go ahead and start by giving just a brief introduction and background of this program. We're located within DPSS. However, we do operate under special operations. And there are only 8 offices located throughout LA County, so we're one of the smallest programs. My supervisor says we're like the forgotten child in DPSS because not every office will have our program, and we really are often forgotten about. But what's unique about this program is we go out to their homes to visit them instead of them coming to the office to apply for our benefits. And our main purpose is to, of course, assist the elderly, the blind, and the disabled. Originally, what happened was this program was created to prevent out-of-home care. And the government realized they were spending a lot more money having people in the nursing homes, so this was a better alternative. And what the social workers do is we make a home visit to assess how many hours to give. And then after they are approved, the recipients are able to choose their own caregivers. And of course, there are two separate kinds of workers. We have the intake and the approved, and then those report to a triple S, and then those report to a deputy, and then these deputies report over to a director. And next, we'll go over the illustrative management practices of the organization. For organizational effectiveness, what I saw that IHSS fits all 4 different models. For the human relations, we have our EAP programs, and it doesn't only offer counseling, there are a lot of training and development courses. And the next one, without a doubt, we function under an open systems. And in light of COVID-19, we have pulled resources from the Department of Aging, as well as a couple other resources like food deliveries and companionship calls for our recipients. And we'll go ahead and the next one is our open systems. Going over open system, we'll go into a little bit more detail later on as well. And for the internal process, we have policies and procedures put into place in order to gain stability and control of the environment. And lastly, IHSS, we also fit a rational goal model where work is being done with strategic planning. For MNSBRC's coordination and control mechanisms seen in our workplace, IHSS has 4. With our direct supervision, we're only to report and take instructions from, of course, our own supervisor. And our supervisor is in charge of enforcing all different rules and monitoring, of course, our performance. For the standardization of processes, all social workers, we follow a manual of policies and procedures, I'm sure like the most of you guys do as well. And we follow specific charts when we are assigning hours. And for the standardization of outputs, each social worker, we're expected to process a minimum amount of cases. I think within DPSS, all across the board, everyone kind of does the same as well. And for the standardization of skills, social workers are to attend the same county and the same state trainings to ensure that all discretionary problems or anything else that occurs, that they're all handled in the same manner. And so for motivating employees in IHSS, legal compliance is usually used when an employee arrives late. The supervisors really don't hesitate to make them put in their own time. And I feel like most employees come into work to comply with these rules because they are afraid of getting into trouble. For instrumental rewards, of course, there's excellent customer service awards that can be a motivator. And the next thing I wanted to talk about was I didn't include this in my paper because this was an aspect of motivation that wasn't seen in my office, but I included it here in my presentation because it was something I wanted to discuss because it's important to me. And of course, I can't speak on behalf of all the other IHSS offices, but in my office alone, no one has actually completed this MPA program. And granted, yes, I do have a smaller office, but I don't consider it too small. And the only exception is I have another one of my colleagues who she actually just transferred from GAIN and obtained it previously while at GAIN. And she was actually one of the ones who encouraged me to do it because there was no one else in our office who I could turn to. And this isn't something that we really talk about at work either, because I think for my office alone, it comes with a really bad connotation. And I think everyone thinks you're planning on leaving them. So yes, there are people who are happy. And of course, they're encouraging, but for the most part, others aren't too fond of it because they fear you leaving, which means, of course, an increase in caseload. And this was something that I wanted to share because it was important when learning about each other's organization. And I wanted those who had the encouragement from their supervisors, from their peers, to actually feel really blessed to be in that position. And well, now that I've talked about what I don't see, we can go on with what else I do see. For our classical organization theories, it's very typical to what many of you also have in your organization. Of course, the hierarchy of authority, one unity of command, we have technical expertise, written documents, and then how change is accounted for. So when we have call outs, that's part of also making amendments to these written documents. We have the division of labor, the specialization of task. And next we'll go over some neoclassical theories in IHSS. There weren't too many that I did see, but of course we have the Theory X employees and the EAP programs that I mentioned earlier. And then next we'll go over systems theory. IHSS, in fact, does function in an open system. And being in this open system, departments within DPSS continue to assist each other. An example that I wanted to go ahead and share today was regarding SNAP, which was the federal funding for CalFresh. So when that actually threatened to get cut, IHSS social workers, we had to pick up the gap and call everyone on our caseload who hasn't applied for CalFresh. And let me just go ahead and shed some light on the dysfunctions of this. We weren't giving any trainings except a piece of paper with a script. And granted, yes, some people from IHSS already knew about CalFresh, so they were lucky, but I myself did not. So I would call these recipients and they would ask me so many questions that I could not answer, and I felt so bad. And then I would get people who would just chew me out. And I called her, I was telling her about CalFresh, and she said, huh? So I thought she didn't understand. So I repeated the only 3 things that I knew about CalFresh, and she was like, what do you mean I don't have CalFresh? And I'm like, yeah, that's why I'm calling you to apply. And she just went off. She was like, I already have CalFresh. I've just been approved. So I don't know where you got all your information. It made me feel like I was randomly doing a telemarketing call. And of course, I didn't have the energy to explain. So I just let her go off and hang up on me. But what I think people don't realize is we get a one-time listing and it doesn't update in real time. So yes, IHSS, the departments in DPSS, we do work together, but it's not always the most effective. And for the middle range theory, IHSS is very much focused on different rules and regulations, which can lead to dysfunctions in the environment. The one I just went over is a great example, but however, being in an open system can create different opportunities, especially for our clients and the people that we do help out. When Governor Newsom waived off the reassessments and any negative actions on cases for 90 days, this gave the recipients just a peace of mind for them to know that their case wasn't going to get canceled. And so last but not least, the impact on excellence. Of course, there are common cards. There's direct phone calls that people request for our supervisors' numbers. And the director is able to pull an overdue listing. And I think that's a good measure of excellence in my organization. And so that's all I had. Thank you guys for your time. And if anyone has any questions, not about CalFresh, I'll be more than happy to answer them. And I hope everybody stays safe.
Okay, great. Thank you, Sandy. Perfect. Are there any questions on Sandy's presentation?
No questions, just a response. Sandy, you did great. Excellent job.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, that's the perfect presentation. That's exactly what we look for with these presentations. And so thank you very much. You make a really interesting point that I really wasn't anticipating, is your point regarding the organization encouraging or not encouraging additional education and getting the MPA. I think that's a really important point, because I think that's a really good illustration between what we would consider to be human relations theory and human resource management theory. So if the organization doesn't encourage employees to get their MPA because they are, or fellow employees don't encourage their colleagues to get the MPA because they're concerned that once they get it, they're going to leave, and you leave them with a higher caseload. I think that's kind of an example of HR as opposed to human resource management. Human resource management theory would say, you support someone getting the additional education, even though you realize it could lead them away from the organization. It could mean that it's more likely for them to leave. Even if they leave the organization, it contributes to their development as a human, and it contributes to their ability to achieve their goals and self-actualize, as Abraham Maslow would say. So in human resource management theory, you would support that type of education, even though in the long run it may mean the loss of a good employee. Under human relations theory, you probably wouldn't support it because you're concerned about what the negative impacts would be for the organization when that person leaves. So that was a really compelling point of your presentation, to me at least, because I think that really does illustrate nicely the difference between human relations theory and human resource management theory. So I think that was an excellent point. Good. Like I said, that's exactly what we're looking for. So very well done. Thank you very much, Sandy. Is there anyone else who would like to present today? I know I think Sandy was our sole sign up for today, but anyone else like to present? I'll leave the floor open for you if you would. If anyone changes their mind, I know a lot of folks have said that they want to submit on Canvas, and again, either approach is equally valid. But if anyone changes their mind between now and next week, and you do want to present next week, we will have a Zoom check-in next week. And so if you want to present next week, just shoot me an email and say, I changed my mind. Sandy inspired me to present. So just let me know that, and then we can certainly have time at our check-in next week to allow you time to present. Okay. I told you we'd be short today because that's all we had on the agenda. You sure you don't have any questions or anything at all in terms of the assignment or the wrap up for the course? Everybody is good on that. Just one last check while I've got you in front of me today.
Professor, I'm actually sending you a private message, if so, and maybe I should do it via email. And
yeah, I'll shoot you an email. Yeah,
okay.
We'll talk about it. But yeah, no worries though. We can certainly accommodate.
Okay. Perfect.
Okay, if anyone has any questions that come up on the paper, any last second questions, feel free to email me those today. I'll be watching my email like a hawk all day long. So one thing I will tell you is when you do, if you haven't turned in your paper yet, when you turn your paper in, don't be shy about just, being very well organized and say, okay, here are the classical theorists to talk about the classical theorists. Here are the human relations theories and talk about the human relations theories. You can organize with those headings and those subheadings. The better organized the paper, the more to the point the paper is, the better it is for both of us. So don't be hesitant about just getting to the point. You don't have to put in a lot of flowery language or anything like that. I'm just looking at getting to the point and getting the content and seeing you connect these theories and these theorists appropriately to your organization. Okay, well, if there's nothing else, I hope everyone has a really great weekend. I look forward to reading your papers. And like I said, I'll try and get the grades and feedback on your papers back to you no later than sometime on Monday. All right? Okay, thanks a lot for being here. Thank you again, Sandy, on a great presentation. And I'll see you guys all again next Friday. Take care.
Thank you, Professor. Great job again, Sandy.